أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Dear teachers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
There was a scholar who wrote a very important Arabic dictionary. But he wrote that dictionary when he was a very old person, because he actually became a scholar or a learned person in Arabic at a very old age. At a very old age, he had this inspiration to go and acquire knowledge. And so he decided to go to one of the teachers and tell him that at this age, I want to start learning Arabic now. And so the teacher said to him that you're very old to learn right now. It is better that you do something else now with your life. But he was insistent. So he went into class and it was very difficult for him. He would not understand things properly. So one day, for example, the teacher was teaching ahkam on that day for whatever reason. And the ahkam, he taught that, now this is a story, I don't even know why this ahkam was taught, but this is a story, okay. So he taught that, the hide of a dog becomes tahir, or the hide of an animal becomes tahir when you put it under the sun and it gets tanned under the sun. Alright? And he told him that tomorrow I want you to memorize this hukum and come tomorrow and explain it to us in proper Arabic. And of course this person, given his old age, the next day he shows up, the teacher asks him what is the hukum, and he says, well, the dog says that the teacher's skin becomes tahir if you put it out in the sun. You can imagine what the teacher had to say to him. Okay? But after that he goes somewhere else and he gets an inspiration and he comes back and he studies. And it's a famous story that you may know. But here I want to talk about how to teach ahkam. Many of us teach ahkam in the madrasah. Let us teach it in a manner that the students can remember the ahkam. Not just remember it for their test, not just remember it for that year, but inshallah I hope remember it for the rest of their lives as well. So that when they come across real life situations, they can apply those ahkam in real life situations. So I want to share with you 3 tips on how to teach ahkam in a way that they will inshallah understand it better and they'll be able to remember it better as well. Tip number 1, sometimes I find that for a particular age group, the ahkam are too detailed. And the detail sometimes is not necessary. Sometimes ihtiyat wajib is this and ihtiyat mustahab is this. And you find sometimes if you're clever about it, you can remove the unnecessary detail and suddenly it is very easy to remember that hukm. For example, recently I was teaching the bulugh classes. One of the discussions in the bulugh classes is the ahkam of janaba. In janaba, one of the discussions is, for example, what can you not do in that state? Now, when you open up the books of fiqh, and perhaps if you open up your, textbooks as well, they will tell you, number 1, a person cannot enter particular masajid, period, like Masjid al-Haram. Number 2, they will tell you other masajid they can enter only if they are entering from one door and then leaving from the other door. Then I remember when I was studying the ahkam, they said, well, it can't be the same door or a door that's parallel to it. It has to be a door that is across. It has to be a door that's on the side, so that it is said that you are passing through and not just going in the mosque and coming out of the mosque. It says that you are passing through. Now you go and teach that to a young child or somebody who's, let's say, grade 8 or grade 9. I can assure you, after all that detail, he will not remember any of it. So when I went into class, when I was teaching grade 6 and 7, right, at that time they need to know these ahkam, I said, I'm going to simplify it for you. The laws are a little complicated. You will learn them a little later, inshallah. Right now, I'm simplifying it for you. In the state of janaba, do not enter the masjid. How many masjids do you know where you can enter from one door and leave from the other door? Right? Unless you go to Makkah, Medina, to Mashhad, to Qom, right? Other masajid, it doesn't really apply. Give them something simple. Tell them, do not enter the masjid, period. Done. Remember that much. It's very easy to remember. Secondly, a way to teach ahkam in a way that they would remember is use real life scenarios to teach the ahkam. Sometimes we want to teach it very precisely. So instead of presenting scenarios, we go through the hukam, we go through each and every aspect of it, different details of it, and they don't even know how it's applicable in real life. So for example, you want to teach the ahkam for the salat of a musafir. when he's traveling. Okay, we can go through it through the ahkam, or I can present a scenario and let's learn through that scenario. For example, I have a group of students, this happened this week, who want to go for a field trip to Abbotsford. Alright, question number one, is Abbotsford far enough for them so that they would say Salatul Qasr? Number two, when you talk about the distance, where do you count the distance from? Meaning, do you look at it from the boundary of Richmond, or do you look at it from the boundary of the lower mainland? Number three, when can they start reciting Qasr? Is it, the moment they've decided now we're going on the trip, so I've reached, for example, Surrey, I stop over there, I can pray Qasr. Or, for example, I've reached Langley, or, for example, I've gone a distance outside Langley so that I can't see Langley anymore, or until I reach Abbotsford. When? Right? Now you start talking about it, that person may not remember the ahkam, but the day he needs to apply it, what will he think of? He'll think of that Abbotsford scenario. And he'll say to himself, well, number one, no, it's not from the boundary of Richmond, it was actually from the boundary of Langley or Fort Langley, because the lower mainland is one big city. You don't just look at your little city called Richmond, the lower mainland is one big city. Then we traveled to Abbotsford, and Abbotsford was more than 22 kilometers, right? Therefore, exactly, it met the guidelines for Qasr. And number three, our teacher also told us, not in Richmond, not in Langley, not just outside Langley, but when you have left at a distance enough where you can't see, for example, Langley or the boundaries of the city anymore, then you can start praying Qasr, or in the case of breaking your fast, that's when you can be breaking your fast. And the third tip for teaching ahkam in a way that they would remember, when we teach ahkam, we say that there is a reason for why that law exists. This is known as the illat, or the cause for that law. Many a times we do not understand the actual reason for the law. This is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt. But there's also something else called the hikmah of the law, the wisdom behind the law. So when I look at a law, I say I don't understand the real reason behind it, but I can think of what the wisdom behind it is. Sometimes when we teach ahkam, let us share the wisdom behind the law. You'll find that they will remember it as well. I remember one person came to me and they were narrating that when they were learning about the shakiyat in salat, the doubts that occur in salat. One of the hukam there is that if a doubt occurs in the first and second rak'ah, then what happens? The salat is batil. But if it occurs in the third or fourth rak'ah, then you can fix it somehow, alright? So this teacher, when they were explaining it to the student, they say to them that, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects at least in the first and the second rak'ah, you will have at least that much concentration and presence of mind. In the third and the fourth rak'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that sometimes you can lose your concentration. But just explain that to them, they will remember it. They will remember it forever. That the first and second rak'ah, I'm supposed to have concentration. That's why Allah does not forgive it. But in the third and fourth rak'ah, Allah knows that sometimes I can lose my concentration. So Allah has given me a way for me to be able to fix my salat. But just remembering that reason will help them sometimes to remember the ahkam as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.